Marvel, the jig is up. It's over. You can't do this anymore. You don't get or deserve to get any sort of credit going forward. It's it. That's it. It's done. Do you understand? I just got out of Guardians 3. Okay? You have officially proven what we've all known. And until you start fucking accepting who you are, then you won't be successful. Now, Guardians 3 proved what anyone with a brain knew. The Marvel formula works. Do you know how well it works? It works to the point where you have 2 of the 5 highest grossing movies of all time. Do you know, as soon as you start trying to be, oh, we're not just amusement park movies or whatever. No. It's Marvel. You know what Marvel did? And there's me something bigger coming out on this later, just because I've been, something I've been working on the side. You know what Marvel's done? What Marvel's done is not revolutionary. We gotta stop acting like it is. So, this is Guardians review, I guess. Anyways, we'll talk about Guardians a little bit too. There are spoilers for Guardians. If you haven't seen it, go watch the fucking movie and come back. Anyways. Way back when what was the first big kind of superhero comic book boom? World War II. Why? Because you saw the good guys fighting the bad guys and it was all good, right? That was the whole idea around comics and superheroes, and that was the whole reason they became popular in the first place. What did Iron Man do? What was Iron Man? Iron Man was the same thing. Iron Man was this guy who is a very not out of the ordinary kind of type of character. Nothing unique by any stretch of the imagination. But people enjoyed watching it. It was a fun movie. Why? There was a character who was likable, and they were the good guy. There was a bad guy who was not likable, and then they fought, and the good guy won. Along with that, there was a lot of fun and enjoyment and, funny moments and all that other stuff. That's all a Marvel movie is. Like, it's not rocket science. Now, on the other hand, you've got some of these Phase 4 movies. Now, I personally believe Phase 4 is overhated. However, you know what Ant-Man and the Wasp was? Not what Ant-Man was. Ant-Man and the Wasp. Let's talk about Ant-Man first, though. What was Ant-Man? Ant-Man was, look, Paul Rudd. Everyone loves Paul Rudd. Michael Douglas. Everyone loves him, right? They're just going to have fun. You're just going to see, you want to root for Paul Rudd, and there's this bad guy, Darren Cross, who is evil, and he's going to fight Ant-Man, and Ant-Man's going to win. Whoa. And they're just these stories, and they're not complicated. They're not deep in any, stretch of the imagination. They're just stories. They tell a good story. Not a complicated or, revolutionary story. And they move on. Guardians 3 did that perfectly. Guardians 3 was the Marvel formula. Is it the best movie ever made? No. Of course not. But that's not the point. Nobody goes into Marvel saying, I want the best movie ever made. Does it... Guardians... You know what Guardians 3 does? It doesn't set up anything. In the confines of the movie, it tells a story. It doesn't do it. It doesn't set anything up. I can't go in there and name, well, there's going to be this spinoff and this spinoff and this spinoff. You don't know that. There's nothing. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, right? They basically just shoehorned in an Ironheart spinoff. You can say whatever the story, whatever. They shoehorned in an Ironheart spinoff. That's all they did. The reason Marvel started doing the end credit scene thing in the first place was because that was where they would set things up. They would excite people. You don't do that in the middle of the movie. You do it at the end, right? That was the whole point of the end credit scenes. Oh, Marvel end credit scene, it's going to set up the future. That's why Thanos was basically in end credit scenes for half a decade or more. More than half a decade. Then it started, and this happened in Endgame. right? This is the first kind of issue that Marvel's had, right? They do these setup things. You always saw the Loki spinoff, right? You saw the Falcon and the Winter Soldier spinoff. You saw the Black Widow. All these spinoffs happened in Endgame, right? Like, they set the spinoffs up, and they're like, okay, go. But that's why Endgame, one of the many, many reasons, Endgame, in and of itself, as a movie, did not work, right? And what Marvel is doing is very simple. Marvel's goal is to make a lot of money, okay? Now, do you know how you make a lot of money? You make a lot of people want to watch your movies. And honestly, not even just once, but multiple times, right? That's how you make a lot of money in the box office. Do you know why Top Gun made so much money? Now, you go watch Top Gun, okay? If you haven't seen it. Top Gun is not a revolutionary story. Hell, no one's going to even argue that it's a story that's, that difficult to understand. Do you know why it made money? Because it was fun. There was a character who people liked because they were funny. There was a very simple story. And there were a whole bunch of other things. Guardians 3 did this perfect. And this is what gives me so much confidence in James Gunn. Because when it looked like Marvel was really, truly falling off a hill in terms of just they were trying to be something they aren't. They wanted to, we're going to be highbrow cinema, or we're going to be this kind of, no. Yeah, sure, they can call it, amusement park movies or whatever the hell. It doesn't matter. You know what you are. You make billions of dollars. Why are you trying to change something that makes billions of dollars? People, there's no fatigue from people talk about, superhero movies, they're not going to die. Do you know why? So, Marvel was the first studio ever, and the reason they were so successful. They're the first people ever to say, hey, you see those sitcoms? You see The Office? You see Friends? You see The Big Bang Theory? You see all these other sitcoms? We're going to do that, but on the big screen. And in the context of an action series. That's all they did. They just made sitcoms that were an hour long, and that's it. No one's going to say, sitcoms, the peak of TV right there. No. But you know what? You know what some of the most The Office and Friends, two of the most popular shows ever. Is it highbrow cinema like Game of Thrones or, whatever the hell the other highbrow shows are? No. Obviously not. You know what it is? It's colorful characters. That's Deadpool. Right? The colorful character. Like, they're just caricatures. And there are things that are there, which, if you recognize it, it's like, great, good job. So, going to Guardians again, because I'm going to have to talk a little bit more about this movie. There's a scene pretty early on where, when Adam Warlock first shows up, and Nebula's kind of fighting. And you see Nebula kind of has the nanobot technology and creates wings and has the arm, kind of like what Iron Man had in Endgame, right? There was no one on the screen said, oh, that's new. Where did you learn that? And Nebula said, well, when I was with Iron Man in Endgame, I learned some things or whatever, right? No, they didn't. I noticed that because I obviously watched Marvel. So I understood that. Some people probably wouldn't remember that or wouldn't make that connection. And they're not going to lose anything because of that. And you don't have to explain it because it doesn't really matter that much. If you get it, it's like, oh, I see. Cool. And if you don't, you're not losing anything. You're just like, oh, that's a cool thing. They're no like, well, when I was trapped with Iron Man on that planet all those years ago. No. You know what else they didn't do? They didn't really talk about anything else. They didn't name drop people. I think they said Thanos once in the entire movie. I don't think they didn't say the snap at all. They were the only movie really that had like a plausible reason to say that, use the snap or whatever. They didn't. Yeah, there's some vague mentions to Thanos and all that other stuff. Because, you have two of Thanos' children in the movie. But there was nothing specific. Because you didn't need to. The story itself is not something which, is overly complicated or, is something. It's just I think they're the formula to the perfect Marvel villain. See, what they've been doing is they've either been doing we have no clue what his motivations are, his or her motivation, or their whatever motivations are, and they're just bad, or they're just super misunderstood and they're really just good guys, but it's a misunderstanding thing, right? Do you know what the perfect Marvel villain is? It's Hela, Thanos. It's the High Evolutionary. Those are the kind of characters. You know why? Yeah, I'll tell you what the High Evolutionary did. The High Evolutionary had this weird warped purpose, which he went about in a completely fucked up way. That's what he did. You know what happened after that? After that, it didn't go his way. Do you know what happened after it didn't go his way? He lost his mind and went crazy. Now, do you know what happens when he went crazy and lost his mind? Well, he was evil. And then he was stopped by the good guys. That's it. That's the villain. Thanos? Weird, warped purpose, or, weird warped idea of what good he's doing. He then proceeds to do that. He gets messed up. And then he goes crazy. Now, in Thanos' case, it was the present version of him did the first part, then the death of the present version of him and nothing actually changing was the reason the past version of him went crazy and tried to destroy everything in Endgame. Thanos' only difference between that and the High Evolutionary was Thanos is done in 2 movies with a past version and a present version instead of just the same Thanos going crazy, whatever, right? It's the same concept. It's not that deep. It doesn't need to be that deep. Hela was the same thing. Weird, warped, twisted motivation, weird methods. Things go wrong, and she goes crazy and tries to kill everyone. That's it. Like, when people... And the other part of this, obviously, was that they didn't try to do we're going to bridge the gap, and we're going to put in these cameos. Oh, you see Ironheart? Yeah, get ready for her. Like, all you need is a little bubble pop on the screen that says, see Ironheart. Which, I know, that's how the comics do it, but there's a reason these are movies. Like, Marvel tried and is trying to, for some reason, unbeknownst to anyone with a brain, do this thing where they're like, let's do something different. We're going to be creative here. And there's a reason. So let me talk a little bit more about Guardians first, and then I'll get back to this little rant thing. So, again, with the story of so let's talk a little bit of characters in Guardians now or whatever. Gamora is the most underrated character in Marvel. Her development has been insane and has been done so well. And Star-Lord still happens to be the single worst character probably in the entire MCU, right there with Malekith, for no depth and personality, and is just the one trick pony. Now, granted, it works because that's what he needs to be, but Gamora is highly underrated, and is just so happens the way that she's just been, Zoe Saldana's been just fantastic in this role, and has really shown her ability to act, which I think actually is harder to do, when you're covered in prosthetics the entire movie, which is one of the reasons I think Brolin and obviously Serkis for so long before, especially with Lord of the Rings, deserve heavy praise for what they do, because I think when you're trying to act with prosthetics or with or CGI, right, in Serkis and Brolin's case, it's really hard to do. And I think Zoe Saldana, what she's done with this character, and even Karen Gillan with Nebula, is being fantastic. Now I think Star-Lord's still a waste of space, but that's you hear them there. But you know what else Marvel didn't do with Gamora? They didn't try to force it. They just said, okay, you're just a new character now. We're not going to say, oh, I remember everything. I love you, Peter Quill. No. That's dumb. Right? Because it's unrealistic, really. And I think at the end of the day, all you got to do is just... And look, this movie had some nice emotional moments. No one, there were some moments of like, oh my god, what's going to happen? But for the most part, you kind of knew what was going to happen. And that's not a bad thing. Just because it's surprising doesn't mean it's good. There are bad surprises. I think it's ridiculous that, James Gunn is just being able to say, look, this is what Marvel was. It is what it should be. Do you know what? This movie will make $1 billion. Minimum. Do you know why? And probably quickly. Do you know why? Because this is what people want in Marvel. Look, you're going to get the people who say, Marvel is all this stuff, right? I'm sure there are people saying it now, these so-called critics. Oh, Marvel's not cinema. It's amusement park movies, or, all these directors and Scorsese and Tarantino, whatever the hell. Just be Marvel. Do you know why Marvel is one of the most successful franchises of all time? Or is the most successful, of all time? Because people like it. The vast majority of the audience likes it. When you start trying to, we're going to show you people, we could be better. No. You're supposed to make a product which everyone likes. It's like McDonald's. It's not supposed to be the best meal you've ever had. You don't go to McDonald's and say, I'm going to have some fine dining. You go to McDonald's and say, I'm getting a meal which, is probably going to kill me and is extremely unhealthy and probably completely fake. But it's comfortable. It's fun. And that's it. It's simple. It's not going to cost me $500 for this tiny piece of food at some fine dining restaurant. Now, you can still go to fine dining every once in a while. But do you know why Everything Everywhere All at Once didn't make $2 billion? It's not because it was a bad movie. Because it was a great movie. A lot of people loved it. But at the end of the day, it's not a profitable movie because, and I think that's actually even a bad example, but, movies like that aren't going to make a ton of money. Do you know why? Because it's very unlikely the majority of people are going to go watch it a bunch of times. Hell, up until the Oscars, the majority of people hadn't even seen it. I mean, again, that was probably a bad example because it ended up becoming a very popular movie kind of leading into that point. But there's a reason movies make money and other movies don't. It's not because, money in a movie is not the quality of the movie. That has never been a fact. Look at the Michael Bay Transformers movies. They made a lot of money. They were never these great movies. Hell, they weren't even good movies. They were awful. But you know what they had? They had that same thing, which is the reason the most popular shows ever are Friends and The Office. And there's a reason. You go down the street and you go and tell people, okay, have you heard of or have you seen The Office or have you seen Friends? Okay, guarantee every single one of them will say yes to one of those, right? Now you go ask them and say, have you seen the whatever that stupid the Queen's Gambit or whatever the hell it's called? No one's gonna have seen it, or a lot less people would have seen it. Do you know why? Because people like comfort. People want something, and they can just take away some fun. Now, just because I need to be clear here, that doesn't mean, you can't have any political messages or whatever. No. What it means is, the purpose of a movie still has to be fun for the general audience to watch it. Do you know what, you know what's ironic, right? Because I know this will be taken out of context, and people will use it either like, no politics in movies or whatever the hell people are trying to say nowadays. You know what the difference between, a movie that affects change and a movie that doesn't? A movie that affects change is something which everyone goes and watches. You change minds by getting a large audience. If you just played with a small audience, you're never going to get anything. When Marvel tried, and I still believe it. I will stand by this forever. The story itself of Eternals is one of the best Marvel has ever done. I believe that script and that story is one of the best Marvel has ever done in terms of individual quality of story and all that other stuff. Do you know why people didn't like Eternals? Because it wasn't fun. It wasn't as fun as Guardians of the Galaxy or Ant-Man. Not Ant-Man. Ant-Man, the first one, right? Like, it wasn't fun. It was bad. It was boring. And, and the funny part is there's always going to be this thing that exists, right? With Marvel and superheroes, where it's like, you have to be fun. With very few exceptions, one of those being Batman. But for the most part, especially with Marvel, because DC's a whole nother can of worms, but with Marvel, it's always you have to be fun, right? And that's what this movie is, this Guardians movie is. It's fun, just like old Marvel was. I say old, but that's why people love Spider-Man. Well, also because it's Spider-Man, but it's because it's fun. Do you know why people hated The Amazing Spider-Man? Because it wasn't fun. People are going to always talk, the reason these movies weren't going to do well in terms of the critic score, whatever the hell, is because they're not fun. Do you know, now, this is going to be probably controversial, but I'm going to say it anyways, because, that's kind of the mood I'm in. Do you know why I think a lot of people end up disliking Captain Marvel, the first Captain Marvel? I think it's because it didn't feel like a fun movie. And, I liked it. But I think a lot of people didn't like it because it didn't feel like a fun movie. I think people just felt like it was too serious and too whatever. Now, that works, obviously. You have Black Panther for a reason, right? The first Black Panther. Now, Black Panther just happened to have one of the best directors currently directing, along with someone who should have at least one Oscar at this point, if not more, in Michael B. Jordan. You have Lupita Nyong'o, who is a heavily decorated actress, as even a supporting role in that movie. You have Chadwick Boseman, who, again, should probably have multiple Oscars for his performances in many movies. You have Denai Guerrera, who has been, obviously one of the standouts in everything she's done. You basically had a stacked cast and one of the best directors currently directing. So you know why that's why Black Panther was able to work, the first one, because where you can make more of a serious movie. Unfortunately, you can't do that for everyone. Marvel's supposed to be fun. Guardians was fun. I was just sitting back and watching Guardians, and I was just going for the ride, the roller coaster ride. Oh, yeah, go, Star-Lord, kill, go, yeah. And then, don't die. Oh, you're not dead, yay. That's movies. People put all these negative things. Oh, you're standing up and cheering in a movie, or you're laughing at them. Please, get the stick out of your ass. Enjoy the movie. The High Evolutionary was a bad guy. Did you know that? He's not trying to be a good guy. He's a messed up, crazy, bad guy. And that's what the point of a villain is. The villain is supposed to be someone who you can hate, because in this complicated world of all these gray areas, you need someone you can hate. It's the point of superheroes, right? All the way back to World War II was, we're taking the gray out of it. There's the black and there's the white. There's nothing in between. There's the good guy, there's a bad guy. The good guy's going to fight the bad guy, and eventually the good guy will triumph. People say, cliche. No, that's a story. Now, the other thing we've got to talk about a little bit is the length of the movie. I think there were points which were like, okay, why were they there? I've gone through, at this point, 24 minutes? Oh my God, no one's going to watch this thing. Anyways, I've gone, this movie was longer than it probably should have been. I think the Sovereign even being a part of it was kind of pointless, apart from the fact that it directly connects to the second movie. But other than that, obviously there was no connection to anything else. And I think that was good. And I think James Gunn actually said this when he talked about Thor. And they're like, no, I'm not putting Thor in my movie. I don't intend to. I don't want to put a guy in there just for the sake of it, right? Like but I think the Sovereign probably didn't need to be there and Adam Warlock. Like, I understand why at the end of the day they were there, because they were set up in the first movie or like in the previous movie, and so they did. It's not like you had to do that much work, but at the end of the day, I think when you leave a movie, you want to just want more, and I think this movie just didn't. I think it did it better than some of the past Marvel movies, but I don't. Like, you never want an audience to walk out saying, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for that movie. You want people to say, no, show me more. Give me more. I want more, right? Because you know why? Because that makes them go back and watch it again, right? That's one of the reasons people go back and watch a movie. Because they feel like, okay, I want more. Maybe if I go watch it again, it's going to give my fix, right? That's the whole concept. And I think what this movie did better than others, but still maybe didn't do well enough, was kind of say, here, you clearly want more, right? And, again, the end credit scenes were there, and they set up new things, because that's all you need to do. You can just set up new things in the end credit scene, and that's it. Because, like, if you want to think about the New Guardians, guess where they showed up? In the end credit scene. They didn't show up in the movie itself, right? Do you know why? Because you don't need to. Because the movie itself is a story. If you want to leave after the story's done, you're good. You can move on with your life. If you want to stay, you get a sneak peek at what is in the works, and you get excited and you move on. Thanos just showed up in end credit scenes, and people were excited about him. It's not that complicated. Like, I find that weird because, people try to make this more complicated than it is. And I think what James Gunn has just shown you is, and this is why I started off by saying, look, Marvel, you have no more excuses. This is it. You've now proven, and when this movie, and I'm telling you for a fact, this movie is going to make a lot of money. Unless something crazy happens, which, affects the movie, right? But apart from that, it's going to make a lot of money. And what this what Marvel needs to take from this is, look, people want something very simple. You know why Avengers was great for the same reason. This collection of personalities who are all fun in their own ways come together, and it's just a lot of fun, right? Again, it's the sitcom. It's a 2-hour sitcom, and that's okay. That's not a bad thing, because again, those are the most popular shows. Like, Guardians is nothing more than a bunch of cliches and fun characters. That's it. And that's okay. That's good. Who cares? The guy sat there. I enjoyed it. I left, and I'm like, that was good. And James Gunn also does an amazing, and he needs to be given a lot of credit for this. His Easter eggs are so well placed. Like, they aren't just, here's something, go. No. It was very well placed. They're very well placed. They're very subtle, and they're very relevant. James Gunn, you had Howard the Duck in there. Just chilling. It wasn't like, this, look at Howard the Duck. No, it was just, look, he's there, whatever. And I think everyone just needs to calm down and go enjoy the fucking movies. Like, I don't think it should be that hard. I don't know. Anyways, I think that's all I had to say about this movie. I don't think I said the word Rocket once. Rocket was cool. They did justice to his character. Drax actually was so much better in this than he was in the second one. Because it felt like they got rid of some of the over-the-top stuff Drax did, which, was like, okay, get it. Especially, like, the one thing I hated was, when he did that obnoxious laugh. I was like, okay, I get it. But this was a movie. It was the characters were fun. And they really, I think they really bounced back from the second one, which I think had a lot of bad moments in it. And the other interesting thing, which I'll talk about at some other point, is Nova not being mentioned at all in this, which is interesting because I feel like there's an opportunity, and I don't know, like, because it feels like Nova is being, like, promised forever, and yet they've never moved on it, and I don't understand why. But anyways, that's all for today. Overall, Guardians, if I had to rate it out of 10, probably 8. Like, it's probably the best Marvel movie we've gotten in a minute. I can say that with confidence. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's all. Thank you all for watching. Put in the comments what you think of if you've gotten this far. I mean, it's, oh my god, we're at 30 minutes. I'm so sorry. I thought I would be able to do this quicker, but it just ended up being a whole thing. And anyways, again, put what you thought of the movie in the comments. Share this with your friends if they've seen the movie, obviously, because there are spoilers in here. And thank you all for watching. Follow us on social media at comicboys_. Follow me at ColorJamal03. And I'll see you all next time. Bye.